Okay, hey everybody, Dan here, stockmarketmentor.com, and I want to look at, guess what, Nvidia today. Now, the company reports earnings the day after tomorrow in the afternoon, Wednesday night, and I will be online with my 59-minute trader guys on Thursday morning to trade the open on this. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and my bet is it's going to be real profitable too, because this stock is going to make a big move. Everybody thinks so. I do too. The question is which way? Now, this is the way I've been looking at the stock. First of all, and I was making some notes over the weekend and stuff. This was 15% down from its all-time high, just back here. So that was a big move in Nvidia. But the thing that is important to note is it's eclipsed the 50 here for several days, and then finally it popped up. Then a week later, it's down again, comes up easier, runs up, comes down. This time, it actually holds the 50. So we've got a series of higher lows here, both in nominal terms, in other words, price, as well as in relation to the 50-day moving average. So as I look at this actually, to me, indicates real buying still. You still have people, momentum traders, wanting to get this stock when it holds or when it pops down to the 50-day moving average and then it holds there. So you could see here, it really held for quite a few days. Finally, it comes up, gives us that big ramp here. This is the high. And then what happens? It falls below the 50 for like a cup of coffee, like just during the day, first thing, it gaps down, trades down, and then we're back up. This is buyers, guys. These are buyers coming in here, taking this stock again and again and again. Well, now it's down here at this level. We have a couple trading days left. But the thing that concerns me is that it has never really come back to surpass this high. And let's say the stock closes right here before earnings. Well, the high is up over 12%, about 12% above this level. So this is the thing. I just can't see the best case scenario even being that the stock is going to run up more than 12% and just keep going. I just don't see it. And so if the stock pops, if earnings are great and all that, that's fine. But if this thing comes up to 210, you really got to be looking at this as a day trade, possibly to the short side. If it pops up above that, even more so. Now, I'm not predicting which way the stock's going to go. Nobody can do that except fools and liars. But what I am saying is that, by the way, that point about nobody can predict the way a stock's going except fools and liars, that actually got me kicked off of Fast Money because little did I know that Dennis Gartman was like right behind me making a prediction about something. And so because Gartman's daughter was a producer of Fast Money, you know who lost that argument, even though his prediction was wrong. Anyway, back on track. I don't even know why I know why I thought about that because I use that phrase. Anyway, so the point is, though, even if the stock runs up here on great news, I think it's going to have a real tough time continuing to go. I mean, it's already, look, it's still Nvidia. It's the biggest dog on the porch. On the other hand, if the stock falls, this is likely to be a buying opportunity because it's still Nvidia. So really, like what you're looking at here is a stock that is really under scrutiny. It's under the microscope by everybody. And so my suggestion is just without knowing more, if the stock gaps down, you're going to want to be considering going to the upside. If the stock gaps up, you're really going to want to be considering selling it. I think it's really, really tough. It's really problematic to try to short a stock like Nvidia. That's just a real dangerous game. It could work, might work, but I think that's going to be really tough. So I've given you my take on Nvidia. I will be, like I said, I will be trading this online for those who purchased the new 59-minute trader, which we're already having a sale on. for the typical Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We're kind of flipping it around. We're doing this Cyber Monday. We'll deal with Black Friday later. But if you're in that course, you will have an opportunity to join me too. It's not for everybody, but if you want to make money, it's probably for you. So, all right, guys, that's all I have. I will see you all next time.